You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It is your most authoritative news analysis show. And as I announced to you earlier, in the studio, Abdul Malik Kubako is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. He's a regular panelist here. Atik Mohammed is general secretary of the PNC. Peter McMenu is in charge of the campaign of the NPP. He's here. And also, he's been responsible for all matters relating to elections. He is an expert in his own right, traveling all over the world and doing election matters. Also, Felix Kwachi Ofosu is Deputy Communications Minister. He's here in the studio. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Right. Now, let me do a bit of credit to those who are paying for this program. The show is brought to you, as you know, by Bank of Africa, and Bank of Africa is asking you to save and win, and that's their season of giving promotion. All you do is to simply enter by participating or opening an account with 150 Ghana cedis, build up funds, and get rewarded at end of every month until end of promo. The end of promo is the 31st of January 2017. Remember, there are no draws. You only win. And you get fantastic prizes such as TV sets, fridges, smartphones, laptops, and a lot more. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. Terms and conditions apply on this particular promotions. That moment when you can download and stream your favorite action movie within seconds, make that seamless video call with your friends without any buffering. Share those awesome wedding pictures and videos with friends and family, among others. Everybody loves the internet for one thing or the other, whether it is for gaming, it's for music, streaming, movies, learning, staying in touch with your friends and family, or for business. MTN 4G gives you a better internet experience. 4G is life. So go on, get yourself a 4G device today and experience the power of MTN's ultra-fast and stable 4G network, the first mobile 4G network in Ghana. MTN 4G, say hello to the future. MTN, everywhere you go. Star E Insurance, let me tell you about the three quick and easy steps that you can make things happen for yourself. Everything you always wanted of insurance is online. You buy, renew, or you make your claims, all in 3 easy steps. First, you log on to starassurance.com and follow the easy steps to get your insurance online. It's that easy and quick. Star E Insurance, possible anywhere, anytime. Star Assurance, your solid partner. If you are a farmer, landscaper, or gardener, what has been your bother or headache over the years? If it's poor seasonal yields, over the period, post-harvest losses due to short shelf life of your produce, then this is the time to pull the plugs on that. You need ACAP compost fertilizer. It is an organic fertilizer made from pure organic materials such as food and farm waste decomposed naturally into humus, very suitable for agricultural purposes. Whatever you need to do it with ACAP compost fertilizer, which is available in all leading agro-input dealers and distributors across the country. For inquiries, please contact 026 40 781, 026 40 781, or 020 1735 56 4. ACAP compost fertilizer, naturally. White Temple Agencies Limited. That's where you find the latest technologically advanced, trendy, and durable, yet affordable stone-coated roofing tiles. Fair Roof, that's a luxury you can afford. They have a variety of colors and designs for you to pick from. All you got to do is to give them your roofing plan, and they will meet your taste. That's what they are professionals at. You can locate White Temple Agencies Limited on plot number 65 Derby Avenue on the Children's Hospital Road, adjacent to NHIS building, Arena, or their sales office branch at the Old Weja Barrier, Accra West. You can call them 0302 67 37 73, 0302 67 37 73, or 024 32 84 85 9. That is White Temple Agency and Royal Lighting. Walk in the light. Your home ought to be made your royal place. You deserve that treatment, and that's what Royal Lighting Investment does for you. They have in stock indoor and outdoor lights such as wall lights, ceiling lights, exquisite and antique chandeliers, brick wall lights, spotlights, recessed lights, in-ground lights, you name them, garden lights, all of them. They've got them. Visit their showroom at Bachona off the Spintex Road, previously Nick and Siloga building near Bachona Total. You can call them 0302 816310 or 0302 816311. Royal Lighting Investment, your house of quality lights and accessories. Royal Lighting and Investment Limited, walk in the lights. Thank you very much for keeping your dials here on Joy 99.7 FM and over a dozen affiliates across the country, and also for staying with us on your multi-TV Joy News channel. Just a couple of the messages that you have sent on the first segment of the show. Now, Bezo David says that special vote in Pune. I am wondering what will happen on December, the D-Day itself. I pray the Lord see us through. Amen. I join in your prayer. Collins Labi says, I will appreciate if, so you want my take to be posted. It will be on my Joy Online shortly for you to have. Prosper Ametou Agbeli says, you want Jakpasu to tell us why they have not released the feeding fees for EC officials on election day. You are an official and your feeding fee has not come. Don't worry, they will do it for you. NS in Taifa says that Ghanaians want change of incompetent government. Okay, your message must be about what we have just discussed. Jefferson James Tidal Abdullahi says that how will the police know the individual constituencies of the police officers they intend to post for election duties? Oh, I think that the officers should tell them where they are, and that will be easy. Bonti Benjamin. Okay, you are not speaking about this and you're talking about change. We'll get to those other issues later. And then Joe Mengel wants to know from the EC, the election should not travel more than one day under any circumstances. The political parties, especially MPP, should ensure this does not happen. No one knows what happens to ballot boxes overnight in over all the polling stations. Okay. Well, the law allows the EC to postpone elections and have them the next day. But you are saying we should avoid that. Well, I hope that that's what the EC is also praying for. Prince Living sending this from Baku, and he says Charles Osei should resign. Oh, this hour should resign. Her arrogant and all-knowing posture is not that of a referee at all. Let's take it easy and give all our cooperation and support for this to go on smoothly. Fusaini Safiano says that the desperation, okay, it's not about this. It's about Bugri Nabu issue. We'll deal with that shortly. What happens at the special voting? In the general election, what will happen there? Okay, do not disenfranchise people. That is Nassam Inusa. That's the important message he's putting out. Do not disenfranchise people. Thank you. I think I'll end the messages here. We'll read some of them later. But there are many people who are worried about the Dr. Benjamin Agozo's claims that you cannot be at the polling station area and gather there. They are very worried about that, and they want a lot more clarity on this issue. Thank you. Now, let's hear from you, gentlemen, briefly on the matters arising from the not so special voting day and how you project things into tomorrow and December 7, and then also what you have to say about the peace pact that all the presidential candidates signed onto on Friday. It was Thursday. Yes. I think I'd like to start with you, Atik Mohammed. This is your very first time on Newsfile. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, Samson, for having me. Let me say good morning to our viewers and listeners. I think that this issue of special voting was supposed to be a technical dress rehearsal towards the main event on the 7th of December. Unfortunately, it appears from the rehearsal we have had that all is not well. And I think that some of the things we encountered during that event were things that we could have avoided. But because the Electoral Commission found itself entangled in all kinds of needless controversies And in some situations, some of these controversies had to drag all the way to courts and so on. I think it robbed them of the time and the energy to invest in making sure that the events of the special voting and the voting proper actually go on smoothly. Having said so, I think that with all the ill preparedness, we still could have had a fairly better event if the communication department of the Electoral Commission were a bit cautious in the kind of communication they sent out. They sent some confusing communication out there. On the one hand, they told them that once you had your name on the special voters list, you could vote anywhere. You were entitled by that registration to vote anywhere. Only to tell them at a period that nothing could be done, that you were only entitled to vote where you originally registered. And that is why, that, in my opinion, is partly responsible for the crisis we have had to deal with. And so that miscommunication was a problem. How that happened, I am not too sure. But I think that if the commission were working together as a unit, they would have realized that this is the communication our communication bureau is sending out, and that it conflicted with actually the standards and or the practice as we know it. The other point is also that the special voting that happened and those individuals who were unable to participate, now subsequent to a meeting we had at the Electoral Commission, an IPAC meeting, it was decided almost unanimously that another day be set aside for those security personnel who were unable to vote to do so, and that is coming off tomorrow. I think that between the time this decision was taken and now, or I am hoping that some communication would have been sent to these affected individuals. In the first place, their names must be shown to them. That you are the ones, as per our list that we have, were unable to vote, and that we have made arrangements for you to do so, and that you'll be doing your voting in your respective areas where you registered.
They've done so this morning. They've issued a statement. You see, and have announced that all of those people are entitled to return to the polling stations tomorrow and to vote.
You see, I am thinking that given how scattered these personnel are across the country, this communication should have been done, much earlier. It should have been done almost immediately after the IPAC meeting had decided that this is what is going to happen. But I just hope that all those
This is actually supposed to be the second release that they have issued.
Well, I hope that this communication gets to these individuals well on time for them to be able to embark on the journeys they're supposed to. The other issue is that in as much as we blame the Electoral Commission for not putting in place the needed arrangements for a smooth event, I think that the security agencies are also partly responsible for this somewhat mess we encountered. In the sense that instead of submitting names of these personnel, they submitted some and left some. So you would have even a metropolitan or municipal chief of the police going to where he originally registered, only to be told that his name is not on the special voters list. And once your name is not on that list, you cannot technically speaking vote. You may be a COP, your rank may be whatever. Once your name is not on that list, you can't be allowed to vote.
They have made provision for them. What you are saying is that it's not enough? They have not done enough?
It's not enough, and I'm thinking that for those who are security personnel and for whatever reason their names are not on the special voters list, the police administration must structure their deployment in such a way that they can be sent to places where they originally registered, so that on the day of election, the person will quickly cast his or her ballot before going to the person's post and so on. And I think that all of us have a responsibility in ensuring that this year's process is smooth. I have heard some comments that are not particularly pleasant coming from some political shareholders. I think we should all be guided by the fact that we want a smooth outcome. We may encounter challenges like we are doing, but we should be very guarded in the things we say so that we don't degenerate the situation further.
Okay, since we are adding the issue of the presidential candidates signing on to the Peace Pact, I'd like us to hear what the presidential candidates at the signing of the Peace Pact, what they had to say, or briefly, what happened at that signing, so that you can make these comments and add your comments on that one as well. So let's hear what actually happened on the signing of the Peace Pact by the presidential candidates, all 7 of them.
By this act of signing, reaffirm our emphatic and unequivocal position against electoral violence, impunity, and injustice of any form.
In signing the peace document, the NDP that I represent and lead believes in people over politics.
I, John Dramani Mahama, wish to state my utmost commitment to peaceful and successful elections. Indeed, I have more to lose than any of the other candidates here if this country breaks out in violence.
The Progressive People's Party is a peace-loving and peaceful party, as one can tell from our general rhetoric. As our motto goes, prosperity in peace. We are fully aware that we cannot have a developed country without peace.
I can speak for the MPP and state without any equivocation that we will not do anything to endanger the peace of the nation in any way during these elections. It is in our interest that the elections come off peacefully and the outcome is credible. My presence here indicates my acceptance for peace, because as you know, I was wrongfully disqualified and have not had the same length of time that my other competitors have had. But in accepting and coming to sign this peace accord, I've demonstrated what I have stood for in Ghana for a long time: the building of a strong democracy.
My prayer that the extent with which we've allowed partisan politics to polarize us up to the extent that we want to destroy ourselves. For the 7 of us, I would rather wish that the 7 of us should be killed and the nation should have peace, rather than the nation should be destroyed.
All right, so those were the presidential candidates, all 7 of them, ending on a rather very, I don't know how to describe that note.
Very serious, you
yes,
say.
that they should be sacrificed if the peace is not guaranteed. Okay, so what do you say about that process too? We did it the previous year, right? It was organized in the KNUST, right?
I think that peace is a precious commodity. It is something that everybody, especially all players in this political enterprise, everybody has admitted to that it is a commodity we must all guard very jealously. And to the extent that you have the leaders of the various political parties committing publicly, and I hope what they did was honestly also, to this idea of having a peaceful Ghana during and after the elections, for me is something worth commending. And National Peace Council deserves some commendation also for putting that together. But you see, peace is not an event, it's a process. You don't just get up one day and by signing a peace pact or accord, we expect peace to happen. There are some preconditions. And I think that a lot of the presidential candidates have been guilty of setting a stage for some individuals to offend the peace that we currently are enjoying. And I am thinking that it is all good. It is easy to appear before a gathering like this, make a commitment and say, look, I'm committed to peace. For me, I'm going to make sure that on my part, I'll do that which it takes to ensure peace and all that. But your actions deviate from the very rhetoric you have told the very people who were gathered there. I am thinking that it's time we matched the words of these politicians or these presidential candidates to their deeds.
Their actions before or after signing?
Before, during the signing, and even after during the elections and after the elections.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about everybody, especially those consumed in this tribal and ethnic bigotry business. People find it convenient to say that, well, I am particularly not against people exploiting their origin to maximize their fortunes in an election. And there's this classical writer, Samuel Butler, who says you can't begrudge somebody for having a trump card, but how you play that trump card is what's key. To the extent that people in the exploitation of that trump card seek to suggest that if you are not hailing from a particular location in this country, you do not deserve to become president.
Okay.
I think these are the things that if all of them can publicly and openly disavow and say we don't support, even though we might have made these comments in the past, we regret them because we've gone to sign a peace pact. And you never know, probably some people had their minds, you know, if you like, prepared to do the unspeakable because they had listened to their leaders in the past say some things.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Peter McMahon, elections, that's your area, that's your stronghold as an individual. What do you say of what happened on December 1st and December 1 and what's going to happen on the 4th and on 7th? And also the Peace Pact. That's a very significant event, is it not?
Very well. Thank you, Samson. I think I've said time and over again that elections is a process. And we have a 4-year cycle to prepare for an election. At the close of the last election, you are supposed to review that elections, look at the setbacks internally within your organization, then have an external tete-a-tete with stakeholders like the media, political parties, civil society, security, to find out things that went correct, that you have to pat your shoulders on the back, and those that went wrong that need some form of reforms. I think that looking back, we've had a tot district assembly elections. We've had another postponement of elections. We've had the Supreme Court stopping an elections, the district assembly elections, because of a suit filed by a gentleman from
Ayi that's his name.
Mensah. So you ask yourself, were there any reviews done after these elections that could have led us into a better predicament of how we find ourselves? Because if you are doing a job, whether corporate, civil, or whatever, and you don't do assessments from time to time to know certain setbacks and key advantages, and then you operate within a global phenomenon, know the best practices and how you can imbibe them into your system, then we are not going up as a nation. Because we've had elections postponed in bizarre manner. I think that, first, it has to do with how the register was done. It has to do with how the Electoral Commission applied our own laws, which is the CI 94. Because certainly, the law is straight that you must be resident in that register before you can become a special voter. But I think also, the use of the word special vis-a-vis early voting is important. I have asked that question at IPAC before, that the Electoral Commission should explain whether early voting is the same as special. Because the special connotes some speciality, so they think they can go above board, above the law. But if the word early voting could have been used, then people will know that they are only voting early to enable them undertake certain election assignments. But that does not take away that they should go and vote elsewhere. Something, if you look at this, for example, this gentleman is on special voting. He votes in Kumasi, but he has been assigned to Bogatanga. How? How is that possible? This one is on Kumasi. He has been assigned to Tano South. It means originally he is on Kumasi register.
Where is this?
This is from the Electoral Commission, the Special Voters Main Register. Yes.
I see.
Yes. So these are some of the issues that came up that prompted them, because this is against the law. That prompted them to bring up a new register last minute. And before then, people like this knew they were going to vote.
Sorry, what again did you say? Because Bashiru Brahima, he is...
He's going to do special voting at the center.
Central.
Yes, but his original or main register is Sub-Metro F, which is Ashanti.
Okay, I see. I see. Interesting.
Yes, very interesting. And there were many similar cases like this. So that last minute, a day to the election, the special voting election, new register was hurriedly compiled. Many of these people could not have rectified that they have now, under the law, been sent to their original register. And it caused that kind of chaos we all witnessed.
But you understood the exigencies and for the need for the new updated register. You understood that, didn't you?
For me, because it's in the law that you must do special voting from the main register. In fact, I took the opportunity to see Mrs. Osei on that. She was busy at a meeting. I was directed to see Amadou Sule. I had a very hard time meeting with him on this issue. So we raised it. It's not a question of we didn't raise it. We raised it that it was against the law. The only exception that this can happen is under a returning officer. But you don't equate a returning officer for an election official, because one can be a ballot paper tearing officer, one can be a name referencing officer, but he's not a returning officer, though he's an election officer.
Okay, so we have moved on up to this point.
Yeah, so lo and behold, the public reaffirmation and the creation of intent against electoral violence undertaken by the Peace Council comes on. Before the main setting where the public had a view of what you just displayed, there had been a pre-conference meeting of presidential candidates, their vice, the Electoral Commission, invited important personalities like Mr. Tambo, Mrs. Shirley Johnson. And at this meeting...
You mean Thabo Mbeki?
Yes,
okay.
Thabo Mbeki. You realize that the statement that the Electoral Commission came up with after the special voting debacle mentioned that they have contacted the presidential candidates at the pre-conference, and that's the conference I'm talking about.
Right.
So they raised the issue, and the Electoral Commission admitted that they're going to find a way of getting people who failed or could not vote on board, and that's why in that evening an emergency IPAC meeting was summoned. It was summoned, we all met. It was a serene atmosphere. There wasn't any antagonism from each other. Many decisions were taken. But if you look at the law on postponement of elections, Samson, you are a lawyer, I think we even made a mistake, because the law is clear under circumstances in which an election can be postponed. And I don't think 1st December's postponement fell anywhere under what the law says. If you go to Regulation 36, interruption or obstruction of poll, it says that there shall be a riot or an open violence. I don't think any riot happened on 1st December. There shall be a storm, flood, or any natural catastrophe. I don't think anything like that happened. There shall be the breakdown of an equipment. Nothing like that happened. So why did we postpone the election? Tell me, under the law.
Okay, so Mr. McMahon, just read the grounds on which there can be postponement of elections. And in Regulation 36(1) says that where the proceedings at a polling station are interrupted or obstructed by riot or open violence, storm, flood, or other natural catastrophe, or the breakdown of an equipment, the presiding officer shall, in consultation with the returning officer and subject to the approval of the commission, adjourn the proceedings at the polling station to the following day.
Yeah. So nothing, I think every Ghanaian knows that nothing of these three means of interruption.
But there was a special circumstance. Are you saying you are not for the postponement?
I'm for it, but I'm saying that we must obey the laws we have set up for ourselves. The Electoral Commission did the wrong thing. First, they must come out and apologize, because they are an institution, like any human endeavor. There can be mistakes. But you see, they can't run above the law. They must come, apologize, and admit, and we move on. After all, as I said earlier, at any elections or any human endeavor, there are bound to be mistakes. Just correct them, reform them, and move on. So these are one of the areas such that maybe next time when they are reforming the CI, then they'll take into account some of these exigencies.
Okay.
But be as it may, I think that the process has started. People went back as according to a new statement of pool to be able to follow through an adjournment process. They are going to ensure that people who voted are the right people, and they could not have an opportunity to do a second or multiple voting. That's
Right.
critical.
Okay.
So for us, the process must continue.
Okay, and the MPP signed on to the Peace Pact and you are committed
Oh
to
yes,
it, right?
we are committed to it. And one thing I will say about the Peace Pact is the title. I think we like the title very well because now we are speaking against impunity and injustice because you can't have peace without justice. And I'm happy that the Peace Council has come out to speak against injustice and impunity, which is part of our...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Felix, can we hear you? Mr. Masmini talks about thought elections have happened. So it looks like this was foreshadowed. There was cancellation of district assembly elections he's talking about where we lost millions because of, some say, indiscretion on the part of the Electoral Commission. And the Electoral Commission had outdoored its strategic plan to organize world-class elections. Is this close to world-class elections, the special vote?
Well, it is very important that we do not allow people to connect unrelated dots in order to arrive at a predetermined conclusion. I do not see the nexus between this particular event, I mean the special voting or early voting, as Mr. McMahon would have us referred to it, and the issues that you raised. There's no nexus between the two. They are entirely different processes. Again, what happened on the 1st of December was certainly not the tidiest of elections. It was obvious that there were major hitches that created considerable anxiety for persons who were willing to participate in the process and had thought that they were going to have a smooth process. What it means is that the Electoral Commission has more to do to rectify the anomalies and ensure that on Sunday, that is tomorrow, when those people who were so affected go back to the stations, they do not encounter similar problems. But then again, Samson, has there ever been any election in Ghana that has been devoid of hitches? I don't think so. You won't find one. I dare say that all over the world, it is not possible to have such a major process without one hitch or the other. You can talk about the degree of hitches and how it undermines the credibility of the process. In 2012, we all know that the elections had to be postponed because of difficulties with biometric verification machines. Yeah. And I need to stress that the machines themselves were recommended for use by the NPP, or better still, the process of verification was strongly canvassed for by the NPP. We in the NDC had reservations and thought that it could lead to some difficulties. On the voting day, we were vindicated, but common sense prevailed, and the Electoral Commission postponed the election to the following day. We had a smooth process the following day, and I don't think that those hitches were registered. It is very important that all of us who partake in the process do not engage in unnecessary alarm raising. We must see genuine mistakes and hitches for what they are. And even as we criticize the managers of the process, we must allow them the space to rectify it and not ascribe any undesirable motive. I got the distinct impression, monitoring some of the commentary, that the Electoral Commission had done this purposely to disenfranchise some sections of the electorate. And I found that narrative rather troubling. Yes, these sort of mistakes are avoidable. They are not things that we should look for, and they are not things that perhaps we should be tolerating. But we need to understand that they can happen. And when they happen, they are genuine. It is not because somebody at the commission wants to disenfranchise one voter or the other. I prefer to have an optimistic outlook. I believe that on election day itself,
presidential candidates made mistakes. They got disqualified.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So a higher, expectation is of the EC.
Fantastic. But it does not mean that no mistakes will be made on election day. Indeed, I anticipate that on election day itself, there will be hitches. People will go to polling stations and find that ballot materials have not, or polling materials have not arrived. BVR machines may prove problematic. Some names may be omitted. There may be mistakes and all that. I'm not saying that it is an acceptable situation. But when these things happen, how do we manage them such that it does not undermine or affect the integrity and credibility of the process? That is where those of us who are stakeholders have to behave responsibly so that we do not blow these hitches out of proportion. The other point is that the EC...
You have said that what happened, generated considerable anxiety. These are your words, considerable anxiety.
Absolutely. Yes.
And yet you seem to want to blame those who are raising alarm, that the alarm is unfounded. And some may ask a question. You seem to be very, very optimistic.
Yes,
How do you want to measure your optimism which is a bit of a permanent optimism about the process, against, the practical things that are going on, pragmatism?
First of all, I have not blamed those raising alarm. I have criticized the penchant for some persons to engage in needless alarm raising. I have also criticized the penchant for some to ascribe evil motives for every mishap that occurs during the electoral process. That's what I have done. I have also stated that I do not think that what happened on the 1st of December was tidy at all, and urge the EC to up their game so that it does not recur. The other point too that I need to raise is that I have seen 7 elections at least in Ghana. And if you take out the first 2 or 3, which were problematic because it was a nascent democracy and developing the process. We've had very, very successful elections in the past. The hitches that were recorded notwithstanding. So that is what informs my optimism. And I'm also making the point that it is possible to have hitches and still have a credible, smooth process. If the hitches are genuine and have occurred out of one omission or commission, but are not intended to give an advantage to one party or the other, it does not call for the sort of alarm that is sometimes. Because people said on 1st December that the EC is doing this deliberately to disenfranchise some voters. That is what I have a difficulty with. That kind of narrative is not sustainable on the face of the fact. So that is why I am optimistic that in spite of these difficulties, we can have a smooth, because it is important, it is absolutely critical that we have as smooth a process as possible on 7 December so that both victors and losers would accept the results in good faith and we move on as a country. Lessons definitely need to be learned. We cannot have this perpetually, and we have to get to a point where these hitches are at a minimum or at best do not occur at all. I look forward to that day, but I can understand that as we grow and the process gets refined, we will get there one day. Right. With regards to the peace pact, I think that we need to tone down on the form, and go for the substance. I have a somewhat controversial view, but I hope that I'm not misinterpreted. To be honest with you, I don't find it exciting at all that periodically either civil society organizations or some donor partners or some international institutions descend on Ghana and whip presidential candidates into some line and make them commit to peace. Of course, if you opt out as a candidate, it could be interpreted to mean that you're not committed to peace. I think that we have come far enough as a country to have peace ingrained in our DNA. It should become a way of life. And we don't have to stage functions and programs in order to tell people to live peacefully. We are a country of laws. If people misconduct themselves and undermine the peace, they simply ought to be dealt with as the law dictates. Sometimes one gets the impression that we are savages. And merely because elections are approaching, we are going to lose our minds and misbehave and pick up cudgels and kill each other. It is true that there are politicians who use violence as a means to an end. They believe that that is a way that they can carry favor with the electorate or seek one form of advantage or the other over their opponents. There are some who deliberately instigate some people to engage in violent acts so that they will succeed politically. Those people can be identified, outed, and dealt with according to the dictates of the law. But a general impression should not be created that whenever elections approach, we by default come to the edge of a precipice and we are almost on the verge of tumbling over into an abyss. I do not accept that narrative. And I think that as a country, we should be embarrassed that every election year we have to be reminded to live peacefully. The time has come for all of us to know
and
that it does
like
not
you
pay.
said, if you don't go,
it could be misinterpreted, exactly.
And even if you go, depending on what you say. I remember what Nanado said in 2012 at KNUST, and he sought to caveat the process and say that, look, yes, we are here to vouch for peace, but there must be justice. And that became another political game, particularly for the ruling NDC then, that he was not committed to the peace. Why was he putting in that caveat?
You see, but the point, Samson, is that that narrative had been there for quite some time. It wasn't the first time that he was saying it. Even in this, at this particular event, he made similar comments, or comments that sought to create the impression that he and his party were the victim of some attacks and all that. I saw a lot of insincerity in that. Because, truth be told, no party has exhibited more violence, at least in the last 4 years, than the New Patriotic Party. In their own internal workings, we have all seen what has happened. And not on one occasion, perhaps except those that led to death, has the leadership of the MPP called for those engaged in those acts of violence to be dealt with? Certainly not the flag bearer of the MPP. He has not called for justice for the victims of the many acts of violence that have occurred in his party. Therefore, it raises questions about the sincerity.
You're sure about that?
Oh, yeah, if you have any record of it, let me know. I'll be grateful to be furnished with
referring
evidence.
to the party chairman, the process is in court and is being followed. There's
No, I'm not talking about the dispute itself.
Yeah.
About the dismissal and the suspension. I'm talking about the acts of violence.
Okay.
Well, at the very least, on the 19th of August.
No,
2014,
when I said party
yeah.
chairman, I was referring to the Upper East region.
Yeah, but those were
who died as a result.
Yes, those were
Okay.
matters that were
Thank you.
taken
Let's go to
if I conclude.
It's
Those
okay.
were matters
Let's
taken
go
up
to Kweku.
by the state because they involved killing another. But
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
I remember statements issued directly from Ronaldo's
No, I'm talking
office
about statements that
condemning
call.
some of the acts that
I'm talking
happened.
about statements that call for justice to be had.
Okay.
For those who
okay.
were the victims
Thank
of
you.
the attacks at the
Now,
headquarters.
Kweku,
Yes.
like Atik said, okay, let's not go there. First, deal with the issue of the special vote and what you foresee tomorrow and December 7th.
Well, I heard you earlier providing some figures,
Yes.
some statistics.
Yes, so far,
the turnout.
90, yes, provisionally, 92,000 were able to vote.
Yeah.
Let me give you the specific figure, 92,000 plus. Let me give you the specific figures, they are here. 92,231 were able to vote out of the total of 126,875. And that is, in percentage terms, 72.69 were able to vote.
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised, actually, I have to be honest with you, based on the scale and coverage, the intensity of the early media reports. I thought there was absolute chaos out there. And I was thinking that a lot of people might have been denied the opportunity to cast their vote. Of course, this is a small scale, 120-something thousand. So you would also expect more efficiency and all those things. But so when I heard the figures and the percentage, I was pleasantly surprised, let me be honest with you. Whatever it means, even one person's inability to vote, if it isn't through his own fault, it's a problem. So thankfully, the parties met with the EC and they came to the decision to extend the period. It's tomorrow that the extension will take place. That's a recognition of the fact that some of the challenges that occurred were not due to the voters' own making. So I think that's also good. But I would pray that these challenges do not repeat themselves in a large scale.
Okay.
Even though we are going for a bigger one. No, so we'll have to do so. So it's okay. We've had 5 elections?
7.
No,
No, this will be the 7th.
This will be the 6th under this constitution.
And Felix said that he has seen 7 elections.
Yeah.
You mean we have had 7 elections? Not that you have
No,
seen.
6. It's 6. I should have said 6 elections.
No, but
No, I mean,
starting from 92.
I know we have
you
had,
said
it's
you
different from
have
you've
seen. You said I have seen.
I actually meant 6, not yeah.
Okay.
Well,
actually meant 6.
in this particular electoral commission, and I'm not looking at the personalities, but the electoral commission has conducted 5 elections in this 4th Republic. This will be the 6th. The first one was by the Interim National Electoral Commission.
Right.
Yes, it wasn't under the Act, is it Act 45 or so?
Okay.
It wasn't
but
under.
what do you say to Mr. McMenu's point about even the postponement not being grounded in law? Because the grounds for postponing an election according to Regulation 36 has not happened according to his interpretation.
Yes, I found that quite interesting. I hadn't adverted my mind to it. Perhaps it's reading the law as cast in iron. But I thought the law is made for man, and man not for law. Is that what he said?
That's right.
I think we had to apply common sense here. Some pragmatism was desirable. And that's why the parties and the EC arrived at a consensus. It was beautiful. When it didn't degenerate into anything, I was so happy, that they could sit up together and come to this kind of arrangement.
And you could say this was beyond mere IPAC because the presidential candidates had been consulted.
That's
first.
right. It was fantastic. It just one more display of the fact that the Ghanaian, regardless of our differences, our complaints, lamentations, when the challenge is out there, we deal with the issues. I was really, really excited about that. But that doesn't mean we should take the law for nothing. So it's a very tricky thing. We have 4 days to the crucial one, where we're going to disturb ourselves looking at this law, casting iron, and create problems. But I understand where Mr. Menu was coming from. No, the peace. I'm not going to waste too much time on Mr. because it's obvious.
Right.
The Kumasi Declaration also, actually, I think they are, it was Kumasi Declaration, and the theme was taking a stand against electoral violence, impunity, and injustice in Ghana.
So it's a repetition?
Yes, it's a repetition. And I think the outcome, let me tell you, with all the noise, the propaganda, the distortions, the attempt to single one man out and make him look like a disaster, personified, the outcome of the Supreme Court petition. And I would want to read this document, paragraph from this document that the government sent when they were going for the IMF bailout. It's Republic of Ghana Economic and Financial Policies for the Medium Term, prepared by the government of Ghana. It's dated 14th April 2014. Paragraph 4 is of relevance. There is no doubt that the outcome of the long election and court processes is a positive manifestation of the consolidation of Ghana's democratic credentials and adds to the certainty in making Ghana a stable and positive environment for domestic and international investments. It makes the country a strong functioning democracy in Africa, and the outcome of the case stands out as the single most remarkable achievement in the country's governance history. This is Ghana government talking to the international community. And we all know, subsequent to that, the outcome of the Supreme Court ruling, again the parties, through IPAC, IEA, the EC, began a process of electoral reforms. Many of those proposals have been adopted. In fact, this thing about no need for, that strong room, and all those things were outcome of those processes. They were progressive attempts at consolidating our democracy, which comes with stability, security, and a certain assurance. I'm clear in my mind, I'm not naive.
Okay.
But I'm clear in my mind that this country, in terms of our democratic consolidation, is on the right path.
Okay.
I'm clear in my mind on that score. Of course, few days to elections, we will expect a certain level of professionalism from our security services in how they handle the situation. Some neutrality, quote unquote, as well as professionalism. The party leaders have gone and in a very symbolic manner have pledged to sustain the peace of this country. I think we can take all of them on their word. I think none of them was insincere. I believe all of them are in truth committed to...
Felix disagrees with you. And even though Atik says it was a commendable exercise, he also thinks that the bigger parties are engaged in rhetoric that is not in synchro, that does not synchronize with the pledge.
There's a critical mass out there. You see, it's because I'm a Marxist. I believe in the unity of opposites, the dialectical approach. Clearly, we are not all the same, even as the society, larger society. But if you create a critical mass of positives, they overwhelm the negatives.
Okay.
And I think that's what we have done as a nation all this time. So for me, I'm an ultimate optimist when it comes to how this country post-election. There are flashpoints. The security agencies themselves have determined some flashpoints already. I would expect that they have a preemptive approach in dealing with those things, proactive as well as preemptive. No? So really, there is no cause for alarm.
Right.
I am clear in my mind that we will have an election. It will be largely free and fair and peaceful. and we will sustain the security and stability of this great country.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take a break and return to deal with a number of issues that are not directly related with it to elections. But I felt that we should, maybe 2 minutes each, the issue we put up about the PNC and PPP, who are joining forces in the parliamentary elections. You have the PPP is supposed to campaign and support and vote for PNC parliamentary candidates in Nadoli Kalio, Sisala East, Bulsa South, Bolga Central, Tanisi, and Wale Wale. And then the PNC will campaign, support, and vote for PPP parliamentary candidates in Wa East, Bongo, Walensi, Tempane, Wa Central, Saliga North. Kuku, what do you say about this? This really good, isn't it?
Wow, it's interesting. But I was wondering, where is the CPP? I thought the PNC and the CPP were closer in terms of ideological orientation, political origins, and for many years, these two parties have been trying to either merge or, in abeyance of that, to have parliamentary, yes, to even have yes, but more in terms, even if they couldn't do it on a presidential, there was some commitment, let's find a way of doing, because I'm not sure they filed for 275, all of these parties, did they? No. I'm not sure. So common sense, pragmatism should have driven them into a certain alliance. If even PPP will come on board, because PPP occasionally, there's a certain split personality about it.
Right.
We're not Nkrumahs. Okay, some of us came from the Nkrumahs fold, but we are not essentially an Nkrumahs party. But the CPP and the PNC are clear-cut Nkrumahs parties.
Okay.
So what happened to them? I can't believe it. I'm not against what they are doing with the PPP. It's their own political understanding of the situation. That's fine. It may help to maximize their impact in those constituencies. But why didn't the CPP become part of this? Or why stop the PNC from joining hands with their Nkrumahs brothers? Incredible.
Okay, well, I think you know Kuku has been advocating for a very long time that these smaller parties, so-called, should not be worrying themselves about presidential. They should focus on the parliamentary and make some gains in parliament. It does look like you guys are now seeing some wisdom in this. What led to this?
Samson, we've always seen wisdom in this particular call. And for me, it was one of the messages I took to the PNC delegates when I went to Congress, that for whatever it is worth, it is important to solidify our base, maximize our representation in Parliament, and that we're going to, if voted for, apply ourselves to achieving that feat. And so immediately, and I am probably this a way of providing information to Uncle Kweku and everybody else. Immediately after Congress, we had actually decided some discussion. We started with the Convention People's Party with a view to bringing everybody on board. And like it's been suggested, if not necessarily have some agreement at the presidential level, but at least we could work out some arrangements at the parliamentary level. Unfortunately, this discussion died before it could even begin for some reasons. And let me be very generous with the viewers and share some of these reasons with them. At some point, we began experiencing some inertia from our colleagues. We actually, it was at our instance that this discussion began. But the show of inertia, and at some point we were told that there was a meeting at their central committee, which is supposed to be the, if you like, our neck of a sort, or the equivalent of our National Executive Committee, and that the decision was that they were going to go into this election solo. And so if your colleagues on the other side are going to the election solo, there was no need to continue or further this discussion. And whereupon we had an invitation from the Progressive People's Party for a similar discussion. And I remember very well, the first meeting we had was in Kozindum's Hotel. We actually, the invitation was first to discuss possible merger of policies, where there were similarities in our policies that we could merge forces and begin to amplify these policies so that everybody would realize that on these policies, there is some convergence of idea and all that, or ideas. Then from there, it graduated to the next level. That was it possible to have a full-blown discussion on some electoral alliance?
Okay.
That didn't happen, but eventually we succeeded in saying that for this election, we may not be able to have a full-blown alliance, but in some specific constituencies where we assessed the relative strengths of the two parties, and we came to the conclusion. And let me just assure Uncle Kwekubaku that this, for all you know, could be the beginning for, this could provide the vanguard for the reunification of all Nkrumah's elements. I want to strongly believe that...
You have already indicated the CPP was disinterested.
That's what I'm saying. After this election, if probably what we have done serves or produces some dividends, I'm sure others in the CPP will be encouraged to say that, look, the time has come for us to merge all other Nkrumah's elements.
Thank you. I think I now appreciate why I moderated the IEA debates and I now town halls, and I now recognize why the two presidential candidates, Dr. Indum and Dr. Edward Mahama, didn't seem to go at each other at all. they rather complement each other. Right.
Interesting.
Yes. Now, see, some say, for example, the PPP, it can fight the election on its own because it is doing very well. Even though it is a very young, party, it is doing very well. Why do you think that they will come to this conclusion? And definitely, this is a threat to parties like yours, your candidates in those areas.
Thank you, Samson. But before I come to that, I think there's something that the good people of Ghana should know. MPP is a peaceful party. For anybody to sit anywhere and say that we have killed our chairman and our flag bearer has not spoken against it is a big untruth. Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo issued a statement to that effect. Killing of people is a criminal offense. The state is supposed to prosecute something they are doing. And in any case, there have been killings at Nkwanta, South DC, and others. So I don't think anybody can sit anywhere and pontificate that New Patriotic Party is a party that is killing itself. It's never true, and Nanado is a lover of peace. He has exhibited that both at the Supreme Court and all parts of his life throughout the years. Now, on the substantive PNC issue, I think I must congratulate them. Coalition is a good thing in politics, particularly if you have the same values and aspirations. And as Kwaku rightly said, I think that the CPP must have been on board because they all come from the Nkrumah's stock. And I know that they have said time and over again that they are talking. They are talking, but the talks never materialized.
Since 1990.
So maybe this is the start of materialization.
They have had problems with who is going to give up their symbol.
So I congratulate them for being able to at least reach this step, but they need to do more. And I think if they are able to come up, I mean, we want strong parties to help our democracy.
Interesting.
So I pat them on their back.
McMenu commending and congratulating parties doing things that threaten their...
No, we want the democracy to be strong.
Yes, you...
Yeah. The records will show that Mr. McMenu's assertion that the NPP is a peaceful party.
Okay, please, let's not go back there. I think that he made a comment and he had the right
that I established
a rebuttal. So let's keep to
for the avoidance of doubt, the police stormed.
is a very courageous man.
Let's move on.
For the avoidance of doubt, the police stormed the NPP headquarters 10 times in a matter of 18 months. So that is a matter of record. But again, let me say that parties reserve the right to enter into alliances and strategize with a view to consolidating their own gains in any upcoming election. So from a political strategy point of view, it is perfectly understandable why the PNC and the PPP will enter into such an alliance. Except that I do hope that this marriage is devoid of some of the bickering that characterized previous attempts. I mean, at a point, the PNC and CPP were squabbling over where a coconut should be and where a coconut tree should be. I hope that this time it is agreed that the rising sun of the PPP can sit comfortably on top of the coconut tree of the... That's just an aside. The fact remains, though, that it remains to be seen what impact this alliance would have on the elections. We in the NDC do not believe that it will make any dent at all in our fortunes in the regions where these things have been done. Those who have lamented the springing up of mushroom parties, one-man parties who merely occupy space should be gladdened by this particular endeavor. It is better to have fewer parties putting up a stronger challenge than have many parties whittle away whatever strengths could be brought to bear on the electoral process. So I can only commend them and wish them well.
Okay.
Yes.
30 seconds from Kweku, then we take a break.
I won't take there was one thing that I missed, but I realized that it's well captured, and I hope the parties all are committed to this. I was thinking of the security and protection of the special vote thing. But if I read the statement the EC issued after the IPAC thing, it looks as if they've come to some arrangement.
Right.
Yeah, which is anchored under the law.
That's right. So that's very good.
Right.
But something, if I may, just in 30 seconds, I think that there is this serious muckraking going on in Kalio Nadoli, or is it Nadoli Kalio? Some people have gone to take a picture of our national chairman, who incidentally too is a very strong candidate, ready to win, yes, that seat. They've gone to take a picture of his from Facebook. They have designed a poster alongside another presidential candidate.
That's John Mahama.
Yes, and the idea is to create confusion. And let me use this platform to say that it is never true, it will never be true. He's campaigning seriously. There are people from the NDC and MPP who are supporting him. So those posters
we see on social media are fabrications?
Yes, and you don't see them anywhere in the constituency. They are only circulating in social media. And the intention is to create confusion.
Thank you very much. And on the note of the PPP-PNC marriage, I like to say that, look, these guys are smaller down there, but they need the support of all Ghanaians, like Mark Menu said, so that we can have a stronger multi-party democracy. And you see for PPP, for example, you see they are very qualified candidates in some of the places. And one of those is a good friend of mine, Paul Ajiman-Bio, for the Ahafuano Southwest constituency. Paul Ajiman-Bio. If I had my way, I would take my vote there and vote for that guy for the PPP.
Well, it is a seat.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back.